Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Okay, guys, today we are going to talk about clients, and we're going to talk about having conversations with clients that are
Less than fun.
less than fun conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of your conversations with clients will be easy. A lot of them will be fun. But sometimes you will come up against situations that you don't know how to deal with. And we're going to go over some of them today. I think one of the first things that I want to remind everyone is, this is something we say in the CCA group a lot and on coaching calls a lot, but clients don't know how to be clients. They were not born knowing how to do what you want them to do. And even if they've worked with copywriters in the past, maybe those copywriters never told them how to work with them. Clients are not mind readers. If you want something or you need something from a client, you have to tell them or you have to ask for it. And the same thing with if clients are doing something that is annoying you or that is not working for you, you have to tell them. And you have to find a very diplomatic way to tell them, which is what we're going to talk about here today. Wow, Wisconsin almost came out there. Did you hear that? Diplomatic way to tell them. I guess that's not really Wisconsin. But find a diplomatic way to tell them. But that's what we'll go over today. But your clients don't know what they don't know. Mm-hmm. So if you're finding something they're doing annoying or problematic or anything like that, the first thing to do is to step back and say, okay, what would I like to be happening instead? What would I prefer to be happening instead?
And to also know that they're not intentionally doing it to mess you up or to be difficult. They probably don't know that they're being difficult, or not even difficult, but just not working with you in the way that you want to be worked with.
Yeah.
Reframing that as they're not coming to get you or, pull a fast one on you, that they just don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And then actually I would say step 2 of that, once you figure out what you would like to be happening instead, is to turn that inward, be introspective, and think to yourself, okay, is there any way that I could have prevented this? Or is there any way that I kind of encouraged this interaction? If you have clients that are emailing you at 9:00 at night and you are returning the emails at 9:00 at night, guess what? Exactly. Guess what? If they keep emailing you at 9:00 at night, you have encouraged that because you responded to that email. So they think it's okay. My copywriter doesn't mind responding to me at 9:00 at night, or they think they can expect responses at 9:00 at night. So it's really important when you are dealing with your clients to assess whether this is something that you might have encouraged or something that you let happen, or even just boundaries or boundaries that you didn't make to begin with, or steps that you didn't make clear to begin with. For example, let's say we'll dig right in. For example, let's say you send through to your client the first round, and you have a call with them and explain everything, or you send along a Loom with it, going over a Loom video, going over exactly what's in it. And then let's say you don't hear back from them, and a week has gone by and you don't hear back from them. This would not be the time to be like, oh, my client's so awful. I haven't heard back from them. I can't.
Or worse, that they hate the copy. It's been a whole week and they haven't said anything. Yes. Or on the other hand, they must love it. They haven't said anything.
Exactly.
Any of that.
Exactly. But this is not the time to complain about clients. It's not the time to make any assumption about clients. Because here's the thing. You just sent it through, and it would be tempting to complain and be like, well, they're setting the whole project behind. I'm supposed to deliver them final copy by X date, but I haven't gotten any feedback. You are doing yourself no benefit by complaining about it and complaining about it to other people who can't do anything about it. Because again, this would be one that you want to turn inward. And I say this with so much love because I'm sure this is a mistake that I've made earlier in my career. But turn it inward and go, okay, well, did you ever tell them when you needed the feedback by? Did you set any kind of expectations? Do they know? Because again, clients don't know how to be clients. Do they know when to send feedback? Do they know how to send feedback? Do they know? You have to think of yourself as coaching your clients to be clients and helping them help you.
And I think as copywriters, we think, well, we want to make it easy for our clients. So I don't want to give them a deadline. Giving them a deadline makes it so much easier so they can prioritize it within whatever else they're doing. Deadlines are so important. And if you don't have them, it's very easy for that thing without a deadline to just float and float until the other things with deadlines keep coming. That last thing that doesn't have one is going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
So giving them a deadline, but then also is part of that process, telling them how you best want to receive feedback, how it is most effective for you. So, for example, it was wildly frustrating to have a client go into a document, whether it's Google or Word doc or whatever, and just make a bunch of shit, rewrite the copy essentially. And so being clear to say, hey, if there's something you like, please call that out with a comment. If there's something you don't like, you can also highlight it with a comment. Some of them might not know how to use track changes, so you might have to dig into that deeper if needed. You can do a loom and show them, or just write out, very clear instructions if you know that your client knows how to use that feature. But again, don't make assumptions. So you might as well make a loom and link to it. If you need more, here's how to do it. Or tell them to, if there's something specific that you want to suggest, use the track changes, but don't feel like you have to rewrite copy. That's me. I've got it for you. So please explain why something isn't working or why something is working, and I can use that to do a round two. But being very clear on how you want to receive the feedback and when you need to receive it by. Hey, I need this by, if you could turn these around, any stakeholders that also need to review it, consolidate your feedback, because that's the other thing. Sometimes you'll get a document. I've gotten documents back where it's two different stakeholders and they're conflicting in what they're saying. They don't know what something's going on within the company that they haven't figured out yet that impacts the messaging. And so, have to send it back and say, hey, just, can you
You're going to need to get on the same page there, guys. Yep. Yeah.
So consolidated feedback is how I phrase it now from all stakeholders by, Friday at blah, 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 and by end of day Friday or beginning of the morning, whatever it is that you need to have the time to turn around your V2.
Exactly. It can be just that simple of a line. So this is what you could have done beforehand to prevent this occasion of late feedback. So it could be a simple line that says, "Hey, just sending this through. See, the attached loom for some information about what the choices I've made, and that kind of thing. And please be sure to make sure that we stay on schedule to get final copy by X date. Please be sure to send me through consolidated feedback by X date." Simple as that. That's it. It's nice. It's polite. And that's all you need. Now, let's say you didn't send that as part of sending through your copy. What could you say now to let your client know that they need to send you feedback? Again, instead of being like, "Oh, my client's being so slow with the feedback," or making any kind of assumption, now is the time to shoot an email to your client or call them, whatever you prefer to do, and just say, "Hey, wanted to make sure that you saw that I sent through the copy. Just a quick reminder that in order to deliver final copy by X date, I'll need to get feedback on this by X date." So same thing, just it's the same concept. Just obviously, if you can, you want to do it beforehand, because now they may have to scramble and you may not be able to make, or you, because you kind of, and I say this again with a lot of love, but you let this drag on for a week and didn't tell them when you needed to give them feedback, when they needed to give you feedback. You may have to scramble a little bit to catch that, to hit that date. But set those expectations.
Yeah. And if client misses their deadline, then at that point you can say, okay, I'll do my best to squeeze this in still to meet the deadline, but I can't guarantee it now. And so, or whatever it is, or if you really, really can't, then okay, here's when I can meet this now, and shift and work out the timeline together, or hop on a call. It's so much easier to talk it through. Hey, do you have 15 minutes? Let's look at our schedules and make sure that we can work out timelines and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. It's totally within your rights. If a client is behind on getting you feedback, it's totally within your rights to just say, just as a reminder, getting this feedback late or getting this feedback after X date is going to impact the date that I could deliver And that will also often help clients be like, oh yeah, oh, I got to do that. Okay.
Prioritize this. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But, and I will say too, any of these friction points that you have with clients, always opportunities to refine your process, refine how you're doing things, always
Exactly.
opportunities for learning.
Exactly. What could I have done differently? And
Mm-hmm.
that will help you with all of your future clients. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing to note, if you notice with these emails too, in everything we're writing with a copywriter, we should be thinking not just about the benefit to us of like, yes, I need this to hit my deadline, but it's the benefit to the client too, right? They want to hit their deadline. So, hey, in order for you to launch this on time or send that, meet the deadline we agreed on, whatever it is, and framing it that way. So,
Mm-hmm.
any communication, see how you can focus it on why it matters for the client and why they should care.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. So, what about a client who has given you feedback? You've delivered the feedback. They're like, great, this is done. And then
You've invoiced.
you've invoiced. A couple weeks later, they come back and say, ooh, you know what? I just looked at this. Could we get changes on this?
That's when you say, great, should I can come up with a quote for you for let's
Mm-hmm.
hop on a quick call and make sure, is it just a quick change? Is there more that needs to be done? And you need
Mm-hmm.
all the information you need for a regular project in
Mm-hmm.
some ways to make sure that you're going to bill for this, right?
Yeah, exactly. You need to know what that change is. And you know what? It might be. If it's just like a little quick change, if
Yeah.
it's like, hey, we noticed this word in here and sorry we missed this the first time, but we need to change
Yeah. If it's like
this.
a fine replace.
Exactly. Or even like, can we change this phrase? We just found
Mm-hmm.
out that
Mm-hmm.
XYZ. If it's in this is why you want to communicate with your client. If it is genuinely a quick
Just
change, then you can say, you know what, I normally don't work on projects after they're closed out, but I can see that this is truly a very quick little thing.
mm-hmm.
So I will do this
Build
time,
some
which is
goodwill.
exactly goodwill, but you're also establishing that this is not something you usually
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and then on the other side of that, if they say, "Oh yeah, so we thought it was going to be, but that really kind of changed. So can you just redo it?" To Kate's point, that's your opportunity to say, "I'm super excited to work on this project again. Sounds great. Since this is substantially different from the previous project, I'm going to work up another quote and send that through to you, or work up another proposal and send that through to you."
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a totally different project. Also, the other one is over.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a new project. They approved the project. This is, for all intents and purposes, a new project.
Mm-hmm.
So, other side of that coin, how could you have avoided this in the first place?
Great question. I feel like sometimes you just can't. Sometimes things happen within business that you can't foresee, but majority of the time, that creative brief and making sure that that is nailed down from the get-go and that
Mm-hmm.
everyone's kind of agreed to it. And by agreed to it, you're writing it up. And if you want to send it through and just say, hey, this is what I captured, want to make sure we're all on the same page, then do
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah. And when they're sending through feedback and when you've gotten it to a good place, don't be afraid to confirm that
Yes,
this
if
is
it's final.
it. So you
Yep.
say, okay, so these are your final pieces of feedback. I will incorporate once they're like, yeah, this is great, thank you. You say, okay, so just to confirm, this finishes up the project and I'm good to send through an invoice, right? And you could say this finishes the
Mm-hmm.
project, this ends the project, this completes the project, whatever you want to say. And okay, and I'm good to send an invoice, right? And they'll say, yep, absolutely, send it through. But now you have established that this project is complete. So when
Mm-hmm.
they want changes later, there's going to be, first of all, you have a paper trail then of saying, like, we said this was over and you confirmed that it was over. So it should not be any kind of surprise to them when you say, yeah, this project is over. So I'm happy to work up a proposal for the new one. But that should also keep people from being surprised that they don't just get unlimited changes, which again, it's not their fault if they don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well,
They
clients are going to keep asking. That's one thing you need to know about clients. Of they might not know which things kind of warrant a new project, where the boundaries are, but they're going to push until you say no. I've had clients like that where they're just
yeah.
going to see what they can get away with. Not,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not bad people, but they just
Yeah. Yeah,
They're
certainly not every client by any means, but there are some
no.
kind of clients who are just going to see what they can get.
Where's the line? They don't know where the line is, so they're gonna
Mhm.
see. They're gonna get as close as possible. Okay, here
Exactly.
it is. This is where a new project starts, or
Exactly.
whatever.
Show them where the line is. And quite
Yeah.
frankly, too, there may be clients who are coming back and being like, "Oh, we need changes on this." And they're expecting to pay more for it
Mm-hmm.
because they
Yeah.
know. But you still need to say it. But and there's nothing all you're doing is saying, "Great, it's a new project. Let me
You're
send you
being
through the
very
proposal."
transparent. Yep.
Yeah.
So everyone's on the same page. There's no assumptions. That's what all these things are. No assumptions. Everyone's communicating what
Mhm.
they need. They're communicating, clients communicating, I need revisions. Great. You're communicating what you
Mhm.
need to do those revisions.
Exactly. Well, and then too, it's similar. Another difficult client conversation where you have had a good input call. You've got all the
Mm-hmm.
information you need. You're working on the project. Maybe you talk them through the first draft, and they come back and they go, "Oh, the project is totally different now. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff has changed in the company. We didn't know about it. A lot of stuff has
Mm-hmm.
changed. The directive has changed. Here's what it's going to be now. Can you work with it?"
Mm-hmm.
So in the moment, what can you do? In the moment, you're going to say, you know what? I understand that that happens in business.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is a substantially different project than the previous one. So I'm going to need to work up a new proposal. If you'd like, you can either pay the work that I've done so far separately, or I can factor those hours into the new proposal. Whichever you would prefer works for me just fine. So you're still getting paid for the work that you did
Mm-hmm.
because in full faith, you began a project and they agreed to that. Um, but you're not going to start all over again
Mm-hmm.
based on that previous quote.
And typically, I mean, this is why right, always track what you're doing and how much work you've done. Because, for example, if it's like 30-page website and you're 3 pages into it, you need to get paid for those 3 pages. Could you charge for the full 30-page project now that it's changed? In this situation, it's a little eh, not, I wouldn't recommend it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely get paid for the work you've done, and or wrap it in if it's still, 30 pages, but you need to rework those 3 pages. Okay, here's the new quote that is for 33 pages essentially,
Mm-hmm.
because you're reworking 3 that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't necessarily say, well, I'm going to charge you the full cost and then I'm going to bill you another full cost. It's a
Yeah,
little
a client is going to have a hard time with that because you didn't do the full work.
right.
So expect it is totally reasonable to get paid for the work that you've done, even
Yes.
if the project wasn't completed. But you don't, if there's restarting a new project, that doesn't just go under the same quote.
Mm-hmm.
Under the same project price. They're not going to get a project and a half from you just
Mm-hmm.
because at one point they agreed to a price. So
Yeah.
that's what you say. And then on the other side of that coin, what could you have done initially to avoid that? Now, again, like we were saying, this is one of those things where sometimes things just change and they couldn't have known in advance. Their boss's boss made
Mm-hmm.
a change and all of a sudden it trickles down and then all of a sudden your project is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you can't prevent that, what's going on in their organization. But what you can do is when you send through your project quote, send through your price, make that project specific. And we talk about the 3 big elements in there. You're putting through the price of the project, so that's very clear. But you're also getting, it's not just website. I'm writing your website
Mm-hmm.
for $1,500 or 3,000 or whatever. It's you are saying 5-page website including X page, X page, X page, and X page. The more specific you are, the easier it's going to be to say, no, this is a different project now. And this is different from what we originally kicked off. And even if you say, all right, yes, it's still a 5-page website, but in that input call, we had a totally different conversation than what you're looking for now. I can add hours to like we were saying, but the more specific, and again, you can't prevent everything, but when you're specific in that initial email where you say this is what the project is, again, specificity, this is what the cost, and this is the date that I will get things to you, then you can always go back to, and when they respond to it and say yes, absolutely, then you have an agreement and you can go back to that and say, look, this is the initial terms, this is what we agreed on, this is now a totally different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another situation that we see a lot is, and I've experienced it too, we've all experienced it, where you kind of disagree with the feedback that you're getting from your client, where you're like, oh, this is really not the direction you want to go. In these situations, obviously, knowing when to kind of pick, I say battles, it's not really a battle, it's not that dramatic, but knowing when, for example, I had a client who's like, oh, we use the word consumer instead of customer. Great. That's an easy change. I'm not going to argue with that. I don't see a reason, personally, I was like, oh, this seemed to make more sense, but you know what? It's not really that important in the scheme of the messaging and the tone. On the other hand, when, you've intentionally written a headline, for example, packed, leading with the benefit, and they want to change it to something very feature driven, let's just say, you might then say, nope, this is one I want to make sure that they know they're the client. So at the end of the day, if that is the direction they want to go, you have to know, like, that's just how it is. But to hop on a call and say, hey, do you mind if we talk for, 15, 30 minutes, talk through some of this feedback? I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and putting the best foot forward for the project. You're all doing it not because you love what you wrote. Maybe you do, great, but you're doing it because it was the right thing for the project. And the client should want the right thing for the project. So if you say, hey, so here's why I intentionally did this, and it leads with the benefit, and I think it's a really strong messaging for your audience and for this medium, and you talk about how intentional you were when writing it, client might say, oh yeah, okay, I see where you're coming from. And they might not. But that's, you do it once, you kind of walk through, and whatever comes out of that, then you move on.
When that comes up, you can say, yep, I hear that. This is my recommendation and for this reason. And then talk
always
them through.
Explain the why.
Yep. Exactly. Then they have the information. But again, it is their project. They are paying you. So should they be listening to you? Very likely. Not all clients are going to. Some of them are going to be, and some of them too. I've worked with clients who are like, I know, I totally agree with you. This is coming from my boss's boss. And you're like, all right, well, there's nothing either of us can do about this. So, okay. So you may just, but saying, this is my recommendation and here's why is the best way to deal with that other side of the coin. I know I keep doing this, but I'm very into it today, I guess. It's a very big coin.
You're watching. Yeah, she's flipping with her hands.
Very large coin, gesturing. Like on the other side of the coin, like, a flat, it's just a big coin. On the other side of this coin, what could you do in advance to prevent this? And again,
do
this
a creative review.
Exactly. Thank you, Kate.
Sorry, I get really excited
about this. Go for it. Go.
I'm still thinking of it. It's like she has a gold bar. That's now what I've decided. It's a gold bar. But anyway, you schedule a creative review. That way you can walk them through the choices you made, or, some people do a Loom video, fine, to walk your client through the project and why you made the decisions that you made, so that before they even give feedback, they're armed and informed with the knowledge of what you did and why you did it. They have the strategy behind the copy. Clients looking at copy and just reading copy don't know what not, or they might not know what you did and why it was so intentional.
And if they have to then present this copy to their boss and their boss's boss, they have your information to say, when the boss's boss goes, oh, why'd they do this? It should be this instead. They have the information to say, oh, actually, our copywriter did that for XYZ reason. And that's why. And then the boss's boss may go, oh, actually that makes a lot of sense. Oh, okay, I see it. But if they don't have that information, they can't use it. So whether you get on the phone with them, creative or Zoom with them, or you do, I know Kate and I would both always default to have it in person. So not in person. This is not in person. It's virtual.
Zoom in person.
Because then you can explain, they can ask you questions, and then it just further builds your relationship with your client.
It's more of a collaboration too, versus like me, them, deliver, toss over the fence. And there are going to be projects you can do that, yes, but certain ones you want to
Yeah. And,
Collaborate.
recording a Loom video can be great, especially if it's a client that you worked with before.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a
many
slightly
times.
new
Yeah.
project. So you want to kind of go like, okay, so, this is stuff to look for. And here's why I did this. And here's why I did this. And you may eventually, and Kate and I both got into this place where we work with this client so regularly that we could just send through our copy, like here it is. And, and they know you work so closely, but that takes a long time to get to, because after a lot of coaching them how to be clients. But you want to, you're not just sitting down and like throwing words on a page, it's not, so your copy, the project deserves for you to explain the choices that you've made. And again, them knowing those choices can either help them approve it, or may help get approval if they have to walk that copy up the chain of command. Yeah.
And remember, you're billing for all of this time too. So whether you're doing a creative review or you're making a loom, whatever, that's all part of your project price. So factor that in. It's not like you're doing this for freebies.
Yeah.
Similarly, in this vein, if a client rewrites your copy, hey, I loved your we love it, done, wrap the project up, you invoice it, and then all of a sudden you see it live and you're like, oh, they completely rewrote that, which it's happened to me, and they were thrilled with what I delivered. One project that sticks out in mind, and I thought, what did I do? I reached out and just like, hey, just out of curiosity, just so I know for future projects. It was a client that I thought, oh, we might work together in the future. It's going to help me and it's going to help everyone to make sure that we're getting off to a better place on the next project. Can you give me some feedback on like what changed? Why, I called out specific like headlines. I think a few headlines have changed. Just out of curiosity, what was the thinking and what was the intention behind that? And I forget if I actually got an answer, but you're well within your rights to understand, hey, I just really want to understand what these choices were.
Yeah. And this is another one of those scenarios where if you don't ask, you have no right to make an assumption, because you have no idea what's going on in the business. It doesn't mean that someone thought your headlines were terrible. It doesn't mean that they hated you. It doesn't mean, it could very well
if they said they love them, then take them at their word. I feel like that's, as humans, we do too much. Oh, did they really mean this? Did they really mean that? And it's so much easier if you're like, oh, they liked it. Okay, something's changed. Let me investigate what that is.
Exactly. And the how do you prevent that? This one is one that is especially hard to prevent. I think that the best way is just to keep an open communication with the client and to
still do the creative review. And so again, if you did a creative review and they loved it, I think that's, sometimes if you didn't do a creative review and they rewrote it, then maybe there was key feedback that was missed, possibly. But again, I agree. I think things can just change. And so being okay and knowing that, and that, as long as you were paid for what you did, it's
exactly. And you still use that piece on your portfolio. What I've done in cases, I think I have some of them on my site that are like this, but I know there is actually. I will put the piece up and say, the original headline that I suggested was this for X reason. The client wanted to go in a different direction, something like that. I do want to say the reason that I recommended the headline, and that and put that headline in your project description so that people can see that. So you can still get credit for the work that you did, even though it's not in the produced piece, but you can still say, actually, what I recommended was this. The client decided to go in a different direction. I recommended this for this reason. That's key. The client decided to go in a different direction.
What I was thinking. Yeah,
exactly. But this, this all again comes down to educating the client and helping them learn what it is to work with you.
And making sure that some clients, we both had clients where they like feel bad, so they rewrite it. I know you've had this happen before, and the what was it, project manager, I think, was just like, well, I just felt bad. And you're like, no, it's my job. It's okay. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
So very well could be a situation.
Exactly.
Like
And I was annoyed with her before I talked to her. I'm like, why does she keep rewriting my copy? Why are you trying to do my job for me? So see, jumping to conclusions, making assumptions. And so I finally was like, all right, well, this is really annoying. So I'm finally going to talk to her. And this poor girl was trying to be extra helpful and felt bad asking me to make changes. And which, of course, then I was like, oh, I'm a jerk, man.
Well,
why did I make that assumption?
Clients maybe if they don't have practice giving feedback, they feel bad. It's not always comfortable. But if you make it clear, hey, I'm expecting, and we have an episode on how to deal with feedback. If you're expecting it, then
Well, and here's the
And they
thing
know
is
that you're
that,
expecting it, I should say.
yeah, these incidents can be frustrating. Absolutely, it can be
Yeah.
frustrating. But the way to deal with them, the effective way to deal with them, is not to complain about them. Not hop in the Facebook group if you're a CCA student and complain about them, and then have other people jump on and be like, "Oh yeah, clients." Because here's the thing: is no. Clients don't suck. The vast majority of clients are great.
They're
It's
just
not,
like us. I
well,
feel like it's like the
clients,
people just
clients,
like
they're just
us.
like us. Um, they're not doing this stuff intentionally. More often than not, it's because, and I say this again with so much love, more often than not, it's because you didn't educate them and have led to this issue. So I would strongly, yeah, if you're frustrated, feel that for a moment. But
Mhm.
instead of using that energy to vent about it somewhere or complain or things like that, a much better use of your energy is to go back. Okay, so number one, fix the problem with the client there. And then two, set up systems or set up plans or whatever, add lines to your template emails or your template proposal email or your standard proposal, whatever you want to call it, to make sure or try to help ensure that it doesn't happen
Mhm.
again later with a
Yeah, look at
different
what
client.
you can control. What you can control is how can I do this better? You can't say how can this client be better? You have no control over, but you can control your
Mm-hmm.
communication with them.
You can
And
control your response to it and your
mhm.
communication with them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and yet you're both actual response, literal
Yeah.
typing
Yes.
response, and your mental kind of
Yes.
response to it of your emotional response.
Yes.
All
Thank
the
you.
responses.
That's what I was thinking. Hmm.
It's
Yes. Yes.
in your brain.
Excellent. Excellent.
And I think one of the last ways and way you think of, venting, and I think one of the frustrating things when new copywriters starting out is client meetings that sometimes you'll have your first client meeting or discovery call or even a second or third, whatever it is. And a client will move, they'll have to move the meeting
Mm,
or last minute, it's a
yeah.
shift. And I think this comes from because, especially when you're new and you don't have as much work going on, you're waiting for that phone call and you're like, yeah, at noon or whenever it is noon, I'm going to be ready to go for the client call. And at 11:55, the client's like, oh my gosh, so sorry, got to move it, or even not sorry, or they
Hmm.
don't show up or whatever happens. If a client doesn't show up and doesn't apologize for that, then yeah, it's not maybe a client you want to go with. But if they so sorry or just, hey, I have to reschedule, think about it, put yourself in their shoes. Life happens. You've had to cancel meetings or miss doctor's
Hmm.
appointments or miss hair appointments or miss whatever and move things. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's just
It
a
doesn't mean that they
fact of
don't
life.
respect you and don't
Yep.
value your work. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that, yeah, or if you have a call and they don't show up for it, it doesn't mean that. Yeah, this is back to that you can't make assumptions. You have
Mm-hmm.
no idea what's going on. The CEO of the company could have walked into this marketing manager's office 5 minutes before your call was supposed to start, and there's no way they're going to be like, you're going to have to leave my office, CEO, because I have a call with our freelance copywriter. There's just no way that would happen. The As much as you we want to be in control of our schedules and we want to have things buttoned down and we want,
Mm-hmm.
when we get excited about things, but you have to be flexible. Again, as Kate was saying, if this is happening regularly, then you may have to say to your client, I've noticed that we've had a lot of reschedules lately. Is there something we can do? Because my schedule gets busy and it's getting hard to accommodate these changes.
Mm-hmm.
Is there something we can do? Is there a better time of day we could choose that would be more predictable? Or is there something I could do to help out with this? Because this has happened a few times, and I want to make sure that we're able to accommodate both of our schedules.
Mm-hmm.
Be diplomatic about it, but if it is starting to become a problem, then raise your hand, and again, very very diplomatically, very very in a very friendly professional way, discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sit back and go, oh, my client changed the meeting again, blah, 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 blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. You could sit and you could stew about something. This is with everything, right? You could
Mm-hmm.
sit and you could stew about it, or you could do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you will be much happier in the long run if, instead of sitting and perseverating in annoyance, if you actually do something.
Yeah. And so one of the things I would do often is set meetings in the early morning hours. By early morning, I mean like 10 o'clock hour. I don't get going very fast in my morning. So if a client missed a 9 or 10 meeting, cool. I'm going on with my day and it's not interrupting my day, or it's not like I'm leaving lunch with a friend or whatever. If I do have lunch with a friend, then I'm going to just not schedule meetings after that just in case, or whatever it is. And so looking for ways I can take control of my schedule so that if a client does cancel, it doesn't matter to me. It's not. And the other thing I would recommend, especially when you're starting out and you don't necessarily have a lot of client work, look at what else you can do. Great. I just got a half an hour or an hour back of my time to focus on my copywriting business. I'm going to write another pitch. I'm going to send my follow-ups. I'm going to look at my website or add a piece to my website. There's so many other things you can do that are good uses of your energy. And so looking for those ways to productively fill your time. And again, especially when you're first starting out, because I know it stinks so much when you have your first discovery call or your first whatever, and you don't have a lot of other client calls lined up. Fine, get some pitches out so you can have other client calls lined up.
Yes.
And be excited to have time back to do that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. Taking action is doing something is it's going to change your mood about it anyway. Because if you because it's very easy to go down this rabbit hole of, oh, my client, no, is this going to be how it always is? I don't think I can stand it if this is how it always is. But instead of letting yourself spiral, go, okay, no, this is annoying. What can I do to move my business forward? What can I refocus my attention on? You have the choice between focusing on something arguably negative and focusing on opportunity and positivity. So where are you going to put your attention? Right? It's as simple as that. Where are you going to put your attention? You're going to choose to keep it on the negativity and self-doubt and assumptions, or are you going to put it on the positive thing? Okay, now I have extra time. What opportunities can I make out of this?
Yeah. And I think lowering on all of these situations with clients, whether it's them rewriting your copy, them not showing up for a meeting, getting feedback in a way that doesn't work for you, whatever it is, I think lowering the amount of mental investment we put in those things and just saying, it's in the scheme of things, not a big deal. It's not a big deal. What is a big deal? I want to grow my business. I want to move my business forward. Okay, what are the things I can do to do that?
Yeah, the vast majority of time, it's not about you anyway. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so we gave you a lot to work with. If I were you, I would probably save this episode, because you know what? At a certain point, you're going to need to come back to this. And actually, even if you don't have these difficult discussions with your clients, maybe it's because you implemented the tips we gave you before you get into it with your clients. So definitely save this one. Go back, take some notes, because there's definitely stuff here that's going to be helpful for you. And then, of course, with that, we will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody. Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.